Hello.
So where are you from, Dan?
I'm actually here in Helena.
Okay.
How about you?
Well, that's a loaded question because I live in Cody, Wyoming, but I am actually volunteering at Camp Lutana in Lewistown, Montana,
Oh, nice.
this summer just for a couple weeks. So I actually have a camp t-shirt on and an apron, no makeup. I've got the summer look going, but I figure I'll just come as I am. So taking a break from cooking, I'm cooking for, we only have 26 campers, but we have like 26 adults as well. And then next week we have 50 campers and about 35 adults. So it's a great ratio.
Yeah.
So my kids are here with me. They get to go to camp, and as I volunteer, and it's a great camp. And I don't know if any of you guys are close to Lewistown in Montana. Helena is how far from Lewistown?
About 3 hours.
Okay. I'm sure they have openings still this summer, and I will tell you, it's the best deal around for what they charge for a week. It's amazing.
Wow.
For an overnight camp in the mountains, they have a great staff. Hi, Melanie.
Cool.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
Let's see if I can. I'm logging in from an iPad. I was just telling the other people I'm volunteering at a camp this summer in Lewistown, Montana, but I live in Cody, Wyoming. So.
Well, I was thinking Helena's like 3 hours from everything, isn't it, Dan?
That's about it. Yeah. Glacier and the Yellowstone, Lewistown. Yeah.
Anywhere you want to be, Helena's 3 hours away.
And Sean, where are you from?
I am from Detroit, so
Okay.
quite a ways away from Montana.
Oh, yes, that's a little bit of a ways. So how did you find out about this conference?
So I found out about this conference. I can even do that, I guess. I found out about this conference from Troy Patterson. He used to work in the district next door to me, and he and I do a podcast together. And he said, "You gotta go to Montana. You gotta go to this conference." And of course, COVID happened, and I do it all virtually. So
what's your podcast about?
Podcast is about middle school and whatever Troy and I feel like talking about on Saturday. Just talking shop.
Okay. Well, we had middle school campers last week.
Yay!
The differences between the younger guys is immense because this week we have 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. And they weren't all doing the happy dance the first day when they got dropped off. Let's just say that. Where the middle schoolers were doing the happy, boisterous dance and quite rowdy all week. But I have 7 children, so I have all the ages. Once more people get here, I'll tell you a little bit about my background, but looks like we have Justin, Rick joining us. That's kind of exciting that you do the podcast. Is it about middle school learning or middle school adventures and behavior, or
well, we try to cover the gamut, but mostly what we do is we try to talk about resources and tools and techniques to help middle school teachers meet the needs of their kids.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And I found out last week that the middle schoolers could teach me a whole lot. We had a basketball camp, and it was 6 hours in the gym every day with those kids, and they were awesome. But what they learned in 1 week with a lot of really great instruction from a man from Livingston, Montana, was that, working together in any sport or any activity was the goal, and having those interpersonal skills developed. So it was neat to see the process from some of the kids, including my 6'4", 14-year-old who can be selfish about the basketball, to see them grow together as teams. And then also my daughter, who was 12 going into 6th grade, she's about 5'7". She's not so tall in our family, but she's growing. And she went from zero knowledge to being on the winning 3v3 team because her heart was so soft to working with others, and she was teachable, right? So that teachable heart is something that the middle schoolers really learned last week. And I think that applies to any situation. And honestly, with us, it kind of bridges into us as educators, no matter where we're from and what our background is, especially with technology, because I think I'm 51 and I'm considered geriatric when it comes to the technology world. You know, our teens, our college students, they can all teach us so much. So being teachable, I think, is really important. And that's a big part of this conference too, is why we go, so we can be teachable and learn things, new things, touch on old things, topics. Hello, Charlotte and Kara.
So Hannah, are you leading this?
I know, actually, my name is Joelle. My daughter, it's a long story. I could usually be on my business computer for my job, my profession, but since I'm at camp and didn't plan to stay for 3 weeks to volunteer, I do not have my professional laptop with me.
Okay, no problem. I was confused. I'm like, wait a second.
I know, and I'm not even sure how to change that. Can I be embarrassed enough to tell you that? I don't know how to change that to say my name. Do you know how to do that? Any of you technology experts?
Yeah, if you open the participants thingy, go up to your name and it'll say if you run over your name, there should be mute and more. If you click on more, there's a rename option.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Melanie.
Sure.
I appreciate that.
I run a lot of Zoom meetings and I'm always like, okay, I know your name is not 913-785-4343.
Right.
And they're just like, put in your name, please.
Did it change?
Yes, it did.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself and just get started. We only have 50 minutes. Again, I'm sorry I'm in camp mode. I have a t-shirt, I have an apron on from working in the kitchen. I have the privilege of working at a camp this summer in Montana, in Lewistown, and it is the most wonderful place. And so I'm putting on a different hat and I'm up in the chapel area and just getting ready to show you guys a lot about the jigsaw method. It's one of my favorite topics to discuss and teach on in my college classes. I have 7 children. I have degrees in early childhood and elementary education. And I homeschool. I've been homeschooling for probably 15 years. I taught in the classroom in the public school for probably 12 years, preschool, first grade, second grade. Then went home on kind of a permanent maternity leave and had 7 children over the years. I have one college-age daughter who plays soccer for Idaho State. I have one daughter who is a teacher in Wyoming, and I got a job as a brand new teacher, which is very difficult in Wyoming because they pay really well in our K-12 system. And I teach early childhood and elementary education classes at Northwest College in Powell, Wyoming. We have a population of 6,000 students, or excuse me, 6,000 residents. We are probably the smallest community college in our state. We've had some growing pains the last couple of years with COVID, and we have all had to change how we taught. We were in Zoom classes through the end of this past year. So I just finished my first year of teaching college classes, and they were all on Zoom. We go back face to face in a few weeks. My learning curve was, you're the only person in our education department now, you're new, and we're gonna help you get trained to do all of this online. Let's go, right? I got officially hired and had about a month to get my bearings. I utilized my sources, which included my college-age daughters and my adult children, because their knowledge of technology is immense. So let's get started. Are you guys able to go into the Moodle area of this class? Are you guys all logged into that? Okay. So how many of you have heard of the jigsaw method?
I've heard of a jigsaw method, but then maybe not yours.
Okay. And the jigsaw method can be used in so many different ways and tweaked to meet your needs. Those of you who are K-12 educators, give me a thumbs up, a virtual thumbs up, would you? Or you can put something in the chat if you'd like. I see that we have a message in the chat, a little bit of information. And then how many of you are college educators? Okay. And then maybe some of you are administrators into Moodle. I guess I should say, okay. So it looks like many of you are not in the classroom. Instructional designer for, got some comments. A little K-12 educator, jigsaw in the classroom, instructional designer. Okay, so you can go ahead and leave in the chat what your profession is. Moodle administrator and adult learning for librarians. Okay, awesome. State government. Okay. So what I'm going to go over today can be applicable to all of your professions. I just want you to try to wrap your hands around the examples I use. And then also we can apply it, and I will try to do that as we go. I wasn't sure how many people would show up today. I'm sure Melanie understands that too as a presenter. You're just, and I didn't have video usage yesterday for your presentation. I tried to plan it knowing that we would have most of our students available. So there we go. Let me show you, if you go into the class and at the very beginning, I'm just going to start this off with the best informative video that explains more than most of you know about the jigsaw method. And then we'll move into how to utilize it in our class and try to do an activity where we actually work on it together. So if you can go in to the very first section, I did set up like a Moodle portal. How many of you see that where you can actually go in and watch that video? Just let me know if you cannot see it. After it says join video conference for the session, there's an announcement. And then there's the MtMoot session evaluation. And then there's the renewal unit takeaway digest. And then under topic 1 is where I have the video. The jigsaw method, and it says this is a great 6-minute video explaining the jigsaw method very clearly. Does everyone have that? Okay. everyone should have about a minute left or so. Is everyone finished or are you still working? Pretty much. Okay, so if you look at that video and listen to it, a lot of you probably had a nice review, and some people are just learning what it is, right? Sum it up. Who can sum up the jigsaw method in just one word for me? Can anyone? It's a little difficult, but anybody want to comment on that?
Team teaching.
Team teaching. Okay, that's great. Anybody else have a word? Divide information and conquer. Oh, that's great. Okay. Anybody else? What I've loved about the jigsaw method is most college textbooks are a little dry. I'll just admit that. Even if it's in the subject area that you are most enthusiastic about, sometimes these college students are overwhelmed with being a college athlete, working full time, managing their schedules, learning how to be proficient in time management. So sometimes they are not reading their chapters. Let's just face it, maybe there's a lot of times where they're skimming the chapters. They're not really getting a whole lot out of it. And with online learning, it's a little hard to hold them accountable because their tests are online as well with our virtual classes. So there were a couple times I walked into the virtual class and I said, okay, today we're doing the jigsaw. I asked them a few questions first and I noticed that they hadn't all read the chapter. And the test was coming up and I said, you know what, we are going to do the jigsaw today. And I just changed gears, like just thinking on my feet. I said, you know what? Okay, so let's divide the chapter in sections. And I gave them their topics and they started. And at the end of the class, they were more proficient than they would have been if I had taught my entire lecture and said, take notes, right? Here's our PowerPoint. I would have put them to sleep. Having my background in early childhood education and elementary education really helped me to see the ways I need to teach in a hands-on manner, no matter if I'm in the classroom or teaching virtually. I do a lot of tutoring virtually, and I also do a lot of hands-on learning with that as well with younger children. So when I got observed this year, because it was my first year, I had to kind of be honest with my boss. I was like, well, you know, I know you're going to come in and want to observe me for at the hour class or hour 15, but I said, really, honestly, I'm going to be teaching for about 20 minutes of the whole hour and 15 because we're going to be working cooperatively in our breakout sessions. And we're going to be going to Zoom and doing a forum. We're going to be going to Google Jamboard or Google Slides and working in groups and making a presentation after we do the jigsaw. So there's a lot of advantages because the group work really promotes a lot of leadership skills in all of the children, right? They all have equal opportunities with the jigsaw. They all get to do a research topic. Every one of them gets to do a little research. They each get individual responsibility, whereas in a normal cooperative group setting, they can just rely on someone else in the group, right? Have you noticed that? If you've ever done a group project where the students get in their breakout sessions and on Zoom, and you move from group to group and you find them just maybe silent, and 3 students in the group are doing all the work. Well, in this particular case, they each have to take their expert topic and move. You know, here's your 7 minutes, 8 minutes, research your topic. Use the textbook, use any type of resource you would like to have, right? And they love that because this is a digital age, let's face it. They're not really going to go to the library and find the encyclopedias like we did when we were younger, or at least I did. Maybe I'm dating myself. I'm old, right? Some of you are younger than I am. They're not, they want to be on the computer. They want to be on their phone. They want to Google and find things, right? So this is an opportunity for them to be active, be awake, alert, using their hands and all their senses, where they have to look, touch, listen, write notes of their own. And it almost becomes, I guess, it almost becomes just you set them up for success. You set them all up for success because they all have to participate. They're all accountable. You have to first assign the topics. Okay, so what I did for today was I wanted to give you kind of an example and not ramble the whole class like I'm telling you not to, right? Under topic 1, there is a list of the advantages. We talked about a few. Anybody else have a comment on advantages I didn't discuss? I want to make this about you guys too, not just myself. Does anyone have a comment on the success they've seen in their classroom by using the Jigsaw method? I know virtually it becomes a little more challenging, but there's a slideshow there that talks about, I put a lot of resources here. I just want to say I put a lot of resources on the Moodle so that you can go back and look at them. Those of you who are not familiar with the Jigsaw, we only have the 50 minutes, so I'm not going to bore you with the details of everything I've included on the MtMoot page. Does that make sense? But I do have it there for resources. There is a slideshow there showing you the background, just like we talked about in the video. Some of you like videos, some of your learning styles really are focused on slides. So I have it all there. There's an article there too from a medical college that used the Jigsaw in their dental school. And it's just a research article that talks about how they had one group that was the focus group to use the Jigsaw method with in a certain area of teaching that they were working on in a project. And the other group used the lecture-based model, and the significant changes in success happened with the Jigsaw method. So there's an article for you to read there. And it looks like Joanne says, for adult learners, this method can leverage more of a knowledge in the room and get away from the sage on the stage limitations. Okay, awesome. So under topic 2, I have the steps in implementing the Jigsaw method, which is an article outlining the steps that are actually in your video. But again, some of you like to read articles versus videos. So we know that the first step is you have to come to class with a list of topics, or like in my case, what I talked about earlier, if you need to think on the fly and you're noticing your kids are falling asleep and you have time to implement this with a chapter that they haven't read or 2 chapters, and you want them to go and dive in and do this, you can think on your feet very easily with this, with your textbook right in front of you. Go ahead to the section that says Google Jamboard Jigsaw method with assigned topics. I want to show everyone this. We do not have enough students to actually implement this today. But if we had had our 35 or 40 students show up for the class, I was actually going to divide you up in groups. Can everyone see the 9 topics on there? Okay, so this is Google Jamboard. I love Google Jamboard. My daughters turned me on to this and they said, Mom, you can do the settings, set the settings, and have all the students interact at the same time, which I thought was pretty genius of Google. And their Google Classroom apps are just amazing. This is free. If you go up to the share button, you can notice that, well, that's, I guess the share button would be on my page. Do you have a share button at the top of your Jamboard? So I have it set, you can set it as viewer or editor. I always set it on editor when I'm doing a class project. And so what I was going to do with you guys is separate you into your expert groups. Number one, how do students find information? Number two, what are the various student learning styles? Number three, how do you keep your students engaged in your virtual classes? What are your strengths in keeping your students engaged? Number five, how do you build relationships with your virtual students? What motivates you to excel as an educator? Number seven, in your virtual classes, how do your students interact? Number eight, how do you accommodate your students with special needs? Number nine, what are your greatest weaknesses in virtual learning settings? So, if you'll notice, I had 9 topics ready. I assumed we'd have about 20 or 30 students, and we would have to just use 2 or 3 topics. So then if I assigned you as a 1, your topic would be, how do students find information? You could come up with a list, you could research on Google right here in class. Well, I wonder how students find information. Those of you with college students, you know the answer to that, because they are, or if you have college age or teenagers or middle schoolers, Sean with the podcast, I'm sure you have 20,000 podcasts on how students, middle school students, acquire information. And we all know it's not going to be going to the library, right? There are digital platforms, social media. They are a virtual generation. And honestly, I find myself still catching up. I've only been in this position for 1 year. And I tell you, being creative and hands-on, just like I was with the younger kids, really benefits us, whether we're virtual teaching or in the classroom. The more that our students are using their senses, the better it's going to be. Now, those of you in an administrative position, you can utilize this in your staff meetings. You can actually take all of your staff members under you or that you work with, and you can actually apply this to maybe your school is having to work on how to accommodate the virtual learner in different ways. And maybe you're going through some budget cuts like my school is, and maybe you need to do a whole session on how can we still meet the needs of students as we've lost multiple staff members without the funding to replace them. There's a lot of different topics that you can use. Middle school, if you're a middle school principal and you're having a faculty meeting or an in-service day, this would be fun to kind of set up your topics, let everyone do their research, have their discussion groups, and then move into a consensus to where you're not exactly telling them what changes need to happen, but your students or your coworkers are coming to the conclusion themselves. Does that make sense? So I could sit here and give you the answers to all of these questions, just like you could give me the answers to all of these questions. But when it comes to the classroom, the students need to come to the conclusions of the answers themselves, and then it becomes more of an ownership, right? Those of you familiar with the inquiry approach, the project approach in learning, it's a student-centered learning. It takes a lot of planning on your part to kind of implement, but eventually you'll learn that it's actually quite beneficial to both of you because the students are doing the work. And you're watching the wheels spin in their heads. And I tell you, if you do this type of learning with middle school students, high school students, not just college students, any age really, but the middle school students I noticed particularly last week here at camp, you had to keep them hopping and you keep them moving. And if you are sitting there just lecturing them, talking to them, they're going to goof off, right, Sean? Yeah. So I think Sean probably can apply this workshop to a lot of what he's already doing in his podcast. Those of you in administration, try to figure out a way to use this with your coworkers or the staff that you train, training them on how to use this on Moodle. So what I do is I just attach like a Jamboard to the Moodle portal. And I say, okay, if I'm meeting with them in person, we could do it in class, but here's the thing. I had some completely virtual classes where we didn't meet at all. I knew the students just because I live in a small town and we kind of know most of the families. So I kind of knew a lot of them, but you can use something like this for relationship building. You get to know a lot about the students by just putting a Jamboard up there, not just for Jigsaw method, but for beginning of class. Tell us about yourself. What are your favorite hobbies or interests? And put a Jamboard up there at the beginning of school, right? And have them interact. Don't forget to set it on editor, because I've done that before. If it's on viewer, it does not work. And have the students fill it in. And then everyone on that virtual class gets to see more about who they're in class with, regardless of whether they're meeting on Zoom or they're not, right? You might have, Sean, you could do Jamboards on your website. Do you have a website where teens interact with you?
Sorry, I had to find my cursor.
Okay.
We've not done it interactive that way. That's a good idea to do it. I've used the Jamboard method like this with my my 7th graders and my 8th graders in my classroom, and we've had mixed results with it. Not because of the Jamboard, but simply because of other factors involved with online learning.
Right. Okay. So the Jamboard's a great way, and maybe all of you know exactly. Have seen Jamboard before. Is this new to anyone? Or any of you guys new to Google Jamboard? Oh, a couple. Okay, it's nice to see the comments flow. All right, so we assign the topics, give them a few minutes, right there online. Now if you're not meeting, then you would say to them, this is your research topic. And you would, okay, I don't do much with Google. For those of you who don't do much with Google, or new to Google, or maybe a little bit familiar, you can actually go to, I think it's Google, you can Google it. That sounds really weird, right? Just Google it. There is actually a class that you can take, a free class from Google that trains you on thank you, Melanie, for every single option they have in the program they have for their Google Classroom model, the programs that you find at google.com, Google Docs, Google Jamboard, Google Slide, which is like PowerPoint. You can actually get a class training on all of those things. And if you want to, you can actually pay $10 and be a certified Google teacher and have it on your email, a little option under your name. If that's something you're interested in, I highly recommend it. I am planning on doing that soon so that I can be a certified Google teacher and actually master all of what they offer so that I can be a better virtual instructor myself. So then you would have them do their research. If you're teaching without meeting in person, you can actually post a forum and have group 1, this is your forum. Go ahead and comment on your information or comments here. Everyone needs to comment here and attach. I always have them attach a source, attach a link to a source in a forum to kind of verify that they are actually looking up information, right? Especially to the classes where the kids are not meeting in person. I also, let's see. Okay, so WooClap has a feature. Can everyone see that in the chat? WOOCLAP. All right. Right, and if you have other sources, you can post them in the comments for everyone. But I find the Google apps are the easiest, where they can actually, I can post a link to, that's the nap value here. Everyone's going to take their naps except for us. You can post a Jamboard for them to make their comments there, and have one for each expert group if you want to. Or you can just have a forum where they attach sources. I like that too. I really like the way Moodle is set up. It runs very smoothly, and I find that you can attach anything to Moodle, any program that you find. Flipgrid is also a program. How many of you use Flipgrid? Flipgrid is a free program where students can go and make a little video. So I can attach a Flipgrid link. I have to make sure it's open to the public as far as all of, and invite them in emails with their emails, and make sure it's editable, where they come in and they post a video. I'll say, I want a video response this week. We want to see you. 13-year-olds like Flipgrid. Yes, they do. It's kind of like a license to make a video and feel like we're on social media in our classroom. That's kind of what it's like. So you make your little video to respond to a question, or you make your video, in as far as Jigsaw method, make your video to respond to your expert group. There's all kinds of things you can do. So then after they're in their expert groups, they do their individual research, then they move to their expert groups, and everyone that's a 1 is together, or an A. You can label them group A. And then after they have their time to discuss their topic with group A, and everyone is a group A or a number 1, a group number 1, then you take that and give them about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the time you have. Then you break those groups up, and they go to their main groups. The main Jigsaw groups kind of give it the name. It's like a puzzle that fits all these pieces together. So say you have 6 groups, 6 different topics, then each of the main groups will have 6 people, 1 from each of the expert topics. And you'll see that if you go to, I'm off the Jamboard now, scroll down to topic 3, where it says visual aid for understanding the merging of the main groups, of expert groups with main groups. Does everyone see that puzzle grid, main groups in the Jigsaw method? It says like A1, A2, A3. It kind of shows you, I am a visual learner. I am dyslexic, and I have many children that are dyslexic. I tutor dyslexic children. I never really understood I was dyslexic till I was an educator, and I was tutoring. I've been tutoring for decades. And I just kind of understand how dyslexic students think, because I'm also one of them. But when you give a visual aid like this to a student, and some of you might be dyslexic, I don't know you. I was thinking if I had anybody who was a visual learner, seeing this poster here was going to help them, right? Because we like to have visual aids. My brother and my husband, okay, awesome. It's very hereditary. So there we go. We have the main groups merged together, and then they get to sit and talk and chat. And all the while they're taking notes. They can take notes virtually if they want to. When you put them in these groups, this is where you give them an assignment, and you say, okay, so when you merge together in your main group, you are going to create an assignment. The culminating pinnacle of our Jigsaw method today is your group gets to decide how you're going to make your project to present to the class very briefly, maybe like a 3-minute presentation, a 4-minute, depending on how much time you have. Maybe it's the next class. What I used to do was have them work on this. And then when we met, if it was a Tuesday, Thursday class, on Thursday, I'd say, okay, at the beginning of class, we're going to get together in our main groups again. So then you have to write down which groups they're in. Don't forget to do that. Because when you use Zoom to break out in the sessions, they don't exactly do it the same way each time. That's a note to myself too, because I've done that before. Then what they do is they can make a Google slide, a Google Jamboard, a Flipgrid, something where every single person is contributing to the project. They can make, if you're in person, you know, they can go all out with photos, and if you have a photo printer in your wing, they can make a big chart, but they really like to do the virtual projects. They honestly, that's their element, to do a PowerPoint, or I even gave them the option of doing a TikTok video if it was clean, because they love TikTok, right? I don't necessarily say I'm advocating for you to join TikTok and view everything they have, right? I'm just saying that if your students love it so much and it's an avenue for them to be creative, and they're making a TikTok video and culminating and compressing everything they learned, and it actually is on point, then it should be acceptable, right? Make a song and dance if you want to with your other group members, if you are so inclined. Whatever floats your boat. As we know, they have to keep this information age that we are in, this video virtual age. These kids have to stay hopping, right? Sean probably could chuckle at that. I mean, they just can't sit still. They just can't. They're used to like boom, 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 everything popping out on a screen. So as they get to college, that same child in middle school that enjoyed, and high school that enjoyed the virtual learning and the visual aids of screens, they still like it in college. So so then they would work on a project and pull it together. And I'm telling you, I am so amazed at what my shyest students come up with in their groups. And when I go to the breakout sessions and I just listen and I tell them, you're getting graded today on your participation. If I pop into your group, I'm going to go in unannounced. And if you're not paying attention and your video's turned off, then I'm going to assume you're not participating. If I don't hear your voice, if I call your name and say, hey, what do you think? And you're not there, sorry, you get points marked off. I do find some of my shy students will put their picture on when they're in a small group, but not in the whole group. They prefer the small group interaction, and they come out of their shells. And, you know, I honestly, this might sound really bad, and you might think I'm very much inadequate for saying this, but I will say that for my 8 o'clock classes or any of my classes, I allow my students to come, if they have virtual classes and they want to come to class in their pajamas, sitting in their bed, I don't mind it. I tell you, if they've stayed up all night studying and they wake up a minute before class starts, hey, that's great. They're there. They're at class. So I'm not that strict about that. I know some people really are, and that's your preference, but the goal is to get them to interact, use all of their senses, not just their ears, and to auditorily process what we're teaching, but for them to be engaged as a teacher themselves, and teaching their peers and teaching us from their perspective. Because I will tell you that your perspective will change once you start listening more to your students, if you don't already teach like this, instead of always being the teacher, right? And it's something you have to get used to. I'm not saying you have to just fly by the seat of your pants. You do have to have structure and have a plan. But if one day you get to class and your lessons are just not exciting for you, and you decide, I'm just throwing those out the window, we're doing the jigsaw today, you can apply it to whatever you're teaching. It keeps them hopping and looking at their their projects is just, it's priceless. I love seeing what they come up with. I'm going to show you, if you go up to topic, I know we have just a few minutes and I want to have question time. Go up to under topic number 2. It says another example on Google Jamboard on discussing adjectives. I want you to look at that. Okay, so this was done with a very, this is done with an elementary school group of writers, a little writing class I teach. And they were just doing a little research on adjectives, pronouns, adverbs, and things like that. These are kids who hadn't necessarily had a whole lot of grammar experience. So I did my Google platform, or my Jigsaw platform on each little group had to do some research on what was an adjective, what was a pronoun, what was a noun, what was a verb, so that I wasn't sitting there going, this is what a verb is, yada, 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 and then they fall asleep, right? So this right here, if you get on the adjective group, you'll see, and we just had 3 groups that day. We have a small group. But if you see, what I did was, at the end of all the different discussions, or actually, this is actually, yes, at the end of the discussions, we went piece by piece. We did adjectives, and I said, okay, all 3 of the groups, we've all met in the main groups. We've gone over what a verb is, what an adjective is. We've gone over all the different parts of speech and the sentence structure. Right now, I'm just going to say, okay, group 1, you're blue. You have like 2 minutes, 3 minutes to add as many adjectives as possible. Group 2, you're yellow. Group 3, you're green. And so it could be any adjective they found. And you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, and I think there's just 3 pages. But then they have access to that. If they want to go and add, they'll always say to me, after class, can I go add some more and change the number? And I'll say, yeah. If you want to go add some more to your group, I have a count of where you were. And so as you see, like group 3 actually had, I think, 64. They maybe were the winners. So that's another thing to do. It depends on the age, but I mean, you could do this in a virtual faculty meeting where you are maybe doing some type of jigsaw activity with them, or just a basic, hey, what drives you as an educator? Post a question and say, we're going to warm up with this. I want everyone to post. You don't have to put your name on it, but you can if you want to. And make like a smorgasbord, right? Where you're just, it's like a collage. These are sectioned off into colors. If you go to, this is another one too, I'll show you. Go to the homophone photo fun using Google Jamboard. And this is something you can do at a faculty meeting and have people post pictures of themselves. You can see the homophones where the kids were doing pairs of homophones, as many as they could. They were working, I think, in groups of 2. So you'll see how they found the pictures to go with it, right? That's one aspect of the Google Jamboard I discovered this summer. I have to be honest with you. If you go up into insert and find, you can search, you can Google, find a photo. And there you go, insert it. And the kids have so much fun with that. So for the end of the Jigsaw Method project, you could do something like this, incorporating photos. And also you can use a Word document as well, but the interactiveness and the colors of the Jamboard are just so much fun. And also kids like to use Google Slide. Google Slide has a lot of options for importing pictures and graphics, and I find that because you can invite everyone to kind of join in a group project, you can, you know, okay, you work on the first 2 slides. I'll get 3 and 4. You get 5 and 6. You know, someone who kind of takes leadership in the small group, they start assigning it and boom, they're done. It doesn't take them that long, right? All right, enough for me. It's not about me today, it's about you. Do you guys have any questions? I notice a lot of you have your picture turned on, and I totally get it. You're multitasking, you're busy, this is your summer. You could be working. It says, if you pre-register people in Zoom, you can choose the groups beforehand. Oh, thank you. So just to recap, link out to a Google Jamboard to get the discussion started, right? I'm not clear on how to use the Jamboard. Okay, yes, good question. So you have to have the Jamboard ready before class starts. And what you do is you go to your Moodle and you share it as an URL. Does that make sense? So you go to your, on your portal, your Moodle portal. And so what I did for adding those Google Jamboards is I added a URL. So when you click on share on the Jamboard, it gives you the option of copying the link to share it. And I copy the link there. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I just was not clear about, and I think you explained it, that when they're actually working in the expert groups, that you set those up in Zoom.
When they're working in the expert groups, sometimes I give them a Jamboard. I might have the Jamboards already lined up for each group to work on, or I give them an option of someone can take notes in your group. You can, I'll ask them actually to create a Jamboard if you'd like, to synthesize what you're learning in your expert group, or take notes in a Word document, something where they can share their screen. It doesn't really matter, but Jamboard is a way.
Okay.
To have
But they're,
everyone in the group.
but they're actually talking to each other in a Zoom meeting.
They're talking in a breakout session in an expert group. Yes.
Great.
Yeah,
And then
I divide them up in breakout groups, breakout sessions according to their expert topic.
okay.
Sorry
And then
about
when
that.
that's all right. And then when they come back and go into their Jigsaw group, that's also, do you do that as a full group with everybody, the whole class, or?
I do it as so breakout sessions also. So once they come back from expert groups, and in the expert group time, you know, where everyone comes back together, then I reassign them to their main groups.
Okay.
I just kind of have a list in front of me ready to go, and we say, okay, expert group 1, expert group 2, 3, 4, whatever, and then they go to their main groups. And I say, okay, you know, you're going in your main groups, your diversified groups where all the topics are represented. And each of you will give a report in those meetings of your topic. And then they make their kind of, after everyone has given their information, or while they're doing it, they have to talk about how they're going to make a project to present virtually to our class. And show us what their discussions ended up, you know, that each group is talking about the same topics, right? But they're all going to go in different.
I was just not really clear about how you structured it, and that really helps. So thank you.
I'm sorry, I was probably rambling and wasn't precise. I'm sorry, Joanne. Thank you for being patient with me. Anybody else have a question? Everyone, I hope that I made some points here that maybe you hadn't heard before. Maybe some of your boards of tears. Sorry if that happened. Sean, you have anything to add with that big microphone? I feel like I'm on the air or something.
This is Rick.
Oh, hi, Rick.
Hey, I'll give you some feedback. One, thanks so much. Great presentation. And one of the things I really appreciated is the time you spent putting some of the resources into the course in Moodle. so that we could see the examples. Like I just looked at the homophones example that you have there and whatnot. And so thanks for the preparation ahead of time and providing those resources for us to see.
Oh, thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. I like that Mountain Moot made that available for us, actually. It was awesome because, you know, it's kind of training me a little bit on Moodle as well with the presentation. I thought, oh, that's genius. We're showing you how to use Moodle if it's new to you, right? So, yeah. Anybody else?
I did have a question, which was, so
Okay.
It looks like for a lot of this, you've used Google Jamboard, you know, and so are there any of the things that are organic or native to Moodle that you've used in order to have them, you know, present that presentation back
Yes.
versus Google Jamboard? Things that you found, whether it was an assignment activity or any other activities within Moodle itself that you've used?
Yes, I love the forum platform on Moodle. That is my go-to for just about every class. I use the forum at least one every week. And what I like about the forum is you can actually set up, like if you were going to do the Jigsaw method in a virtual class using Moodle, whether or not you meet in person or not, you can actually set up a forum for the experts in group 1, a forum for the experts in group 2, and a forum for the experts in group 3, right? All the way down through, if you have 9 groups, I don't know what your limit is on your students in the classroom, what your cap is, but I like the forum because, excuse me, let me get a sip of water. I really like the forum because I usually ask them, even if we're not doing the jigsaw, I really like them to go, and even if they're, let's say, one of my classes was like a Foundations of Education class, and they were doing a jigsaw method on researching school boards in our area, our state Department of Education, our U.S. Department of Education, and different other aspects. And they had to do some research. And for the forum for that week, I had them post at least 2 articles. At least 2 articles they found to justify and back up what their comments were. Not just, oh, I like this. It kind of got away from the I like this and I like that, you know, the elementary school forums where you're trying to get a little more out of them. And if they're lazy, they'll just they'll put anything and think that they've done their assignment. So I let them go and do research. I tell them they need to, sometimes I'll have them research articles and attach 2 articles to support the details of their post. They also have to post, they can find a meme if they want to go with it, which they like that. Also, post an image if you want to, post a video. And then sometimes I'll tell them, here's a choice. I want you to post at least 2 links. They can be 2 videos, they can be 2 articles, but you want to have at least 1 article, right? So it just really depends, but I really like the forum method because, and then I ask them to make sure and comment on, if it's a small class of 10, I'll say comment on everyone's post. And I might have them add another source.
Perfect.
But
Thank you.
You're welcome. I really like the forums. I mean, let's just put aside the jigsaw method. If you had one way that was your go-to, for me, that would be the forums. They're very interactive. They can attach and post anything. you can really get them going with memes and photos and articles and pictures and videos. They love doing that type of quick multimedia research. They love utilizing their technology devices, right? So let them have a source, right? Make sure that you require a source in those forums sometimes. Now, if it's just an opinion, I still ask them to have a source to back up what they're saying. I just feel like it's more productive, it's more educational for them, and they're putting a lot of thought into the process versus I agree with Sally, right? So any other questions? Okay, well, I know we've gone over in our class and you probably have other sessions to go to. I really appreciate you guys coming to the class today. Please remember to go on the MtMoot and do your evaluations. I think it's called, yes, MtMoot session evaluation, right? I know I still need to go do Melanie's. Yeah, and you did a great job, Melanie, yesterday. Thanks for being a presenter. And Dan, I think you have a few sessions, right, that you're teaching?
Yeah, I'm just more of the leader, I guess.
You're the leader, the big guy.
So
right?
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Again, I apologize for not looking so professional in my camp shirt. And I do have a really cute apron on too. I wish you could see it since I'm the cook this week. Any other questions? Oh, thanks. Anybody else? Okay. Have a wonderful day. And Dan, I have a question. If they have a question and they wanted to contact me with questions at a future date, can they actually, is my email included somewhere on that page or do I add it somewhere?
It might be in your profile or you can add it to the page, either way. So they should be able to contact you, yeah.
Profile, okay.
In
I'll
Moodle,
go-
profile Moodle, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
All right, thanks so much.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thanks guys,
you all.
have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye.